Hey everyone, and welcome to my first review on the channel. Today I'm flying with China Southern Airlines, starting with flight CZ346 from Amsterdam Schiphol Airport to Beijing Daxing International Airport, followed by flight CZ8811 from Beijing Daxing International Airport to Wenzhou. The first leg is on Airbus A350 and the second one on a Airbus A321. I've added timestamps in the description, so feel free to jump to any part you are interested in, such as the transfer process at Beijing or the in-flight meals. Booking the flight was pretty straightforward through the China Southern's overseas website. The site was a bit slow at times, but everything eventually went through without issues. You can even select your seat in advance without additional fees, and there are options to request specific meals like low-calorie or fish. The website also provides useful information about airport transfers. There are two important things to note. Online check-in was not available for the flight from Amsterdam to Beijing, so I had to check in at the airport. The self-check-in kiosks were also not available for this flight. The second important thing to know is that if you have a transfer, and for example in my case I want to go to Wenzhou and I want my baggage that I check in to go directly to Wenzhou, you will need to fill out a form. This form includes your passport number, your next flight, and your signature. In my case, it was available at the departure gate. This form authorizes them to forward your baggage to your final destination, and if you do not fill it out, you will have to collect your bag at the baggage carousel in Beijing Daxing and check it in again for your next flight. So with these pre-flight checks and information, we are going on board this aircraft, and once on board, the entertainment system had quite a bit to offer. So first they have cameras that are facing forward, downward and on the tail, which gives you nice views of the takeoff landing. You will also find a moving map with multiple perspectives. You can see that they have many options as well in terms of they have movies, TV shows, games, podcasts and music. Much more than I am showing you right now, but just to give you some perspective. Furthermore, if you are traveling with kids, there is a children's section with also some entertainment. As for legroom, I'm 171 centimeters and I was comfortable, but your experience might vary depending on your height. So 20 minutes after takeoff, the cabin crew came around offering drinks, followed by dinner about 10 minutes later. And once everyone had dinner, they came around again offering drinks. So the first service, the choices were chicken or beef. I went with the chicken, which came with peas and couscous. You also get a piece of bread with butter, something that tasted like potato salad. Still not 100% sure, but anyway, and a delicious cake. Overall, I would rate this meal a solid 8 out of 10. So once everyone was done with their meals and everything was cleared, the lights were dimmed and most people settled in for the night. Throughout the flight, the cabin crew walked around offering some water or some light snacks, which was a nice touch. So, about 2.5 hours before landing, the lights came back on and we were greeted with a lot of lights because the sun was up. And surprisingly as well, we were served a towel, a cold towel in this case, to just freshen up, which is a nice touch. So again, drinks came first, then we were served our meal and then another round of drinks. So the options were chicken or an omelette. So I chose the chicken and it turned out to be noodles with chicken, accompanied by a croissant, yogurt and fruit. Unfortunately, the noodles were very, very salty. So it was almost not edible, and therefore this meal gets like a 3 or 4 out of 10 from me. So before we land, let's have a quick look at the bedroom. It was quite standard, nothing fancy, but it's fine.
Ladies and gentlemen, our aircraft will be landing shortly. Please make sure that your seatbelt are securely fastened and your devices in flight mode are powered off. Thank you. Cabin crew, please prepare for landing.
As we are approaching Beijing Daxing International Airport, I think it's good to know what the transfer process is like. I will share some of my experience, which is basically focused on how to connect to a domestic flight in China. But where possible, I will also share a little bit on how it works if you have, for example, an international connecting flight. So after landing, I have to go through immigration, and there are basically, I think, 3 main reasons why you pass immigration, and that's one, domestic connecting flight, which is applicable to me as I'm flying to Wenzhou. The second reason is if Beijing is your final destination, and the third is if you have transfer accommodation, then you also have to pass immigration. So once you arrive, there are fingerprint scanners at arrival, but mine didn't work for some reason. So after telling the staff, they just told me, just go to the immigration desk and do it there. Before you get to the immigration desk, there's a health inspection where they check your temperature through cameras. So basically you just walk through it and they check it. And then you are at immigration, and then there will be staff available that will help you with the arrival card. The arrival card includes basic details like your name, the flight you arrived with, the contact person if you have them in China, the reason you are visiting, and your recent travel history. And if you already booked your flight exiting China, then also your flight number for this departure flight. So then after filling out the arrival card, you go to the immigration officer, and once they stamp your passport, you're officially in China. If you are transferring to another international flight, so leaving China, I believe you do not have to go to immigration, because there were also signs in the airport that had like transfer, follow this sign for transfer. So now let's talk about Beijing Daxing Airport itself and what it has to offer. So after immigration and the baggage area, you get into the next area where there are a lot of people picking up their families or friends or for business. And this area is not too big. There are a few floors with restaurants and shops. So if you have a connecting flight domestically in China, I recommend you not to spend too much time here. However, there are some nice picture spots on the top floor, so if you want to make some pictures, you can do it there basically. After that, I would just recommend you to go through security and into the domestic departure area, because there is so many shops, restaurants, and each wing of the airport has its own unique garden. So there is the porcelain garden, I believe there's also a China garden. You can see the porcelain garden in the video. The China garden was closed. So given my 7-hour layover, I think I still had enough to do in the airport, as there were many shops, many restaurants, and there were these gardens. However, when I flew out of Beijing internationally later on, there were fewer food options, much fewer shops. There were just a few noodle places, a grocery store, McDonald's and KFC, but there was literally not much else. So if you arrive domestically, you should stay there before going to international. So after experiencing Beijing Daxing International Airport, I'm on my final leg to Wenzhou. It's a short flight, I think about 2 hours and 30 minutes. We were served a drink and a kind of piece of bread with filling. I didn't really enjoy the taste, so I didn't finish it, but it was a short flight, so it's fine. Alright, so that's it. Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope this video helped you get a better idea of what it is like to fly with China Southern Airlines and how to transfer at Beijing Daxing International Airport. If you do have questions, let me know in the comment section. I will try to help wherever I can. Overall, I think the service and price were worth it, and I hope that this helps you decide whether you want to fly with China Southern Airlines for your next trip. If you found this helpful, consider liking and subscribing to the channel. I would appreciate the support. And as this is my first ever review of a flight, please let me know where I can improve so I can do that for the next video. So until next time, happy travels!